Woohoo is right. Welcome everybody to our Sunday gathering number 150. Woohoo! Thank you all who got here early today and listened to our opening videos and put messages in the chat box. We have a global community and we are so grateful you are here. Number 150 might be number one for you. Maybe you've been to all 150. Doesn't matter. We're happy we are together. I am joined today by the lovely Kerry McLeod and the most handsome Philip Dykes. And our friend Darren has got some family time today, so he won't be with us today. So it's just our three amigos. Carrie has orchestrated our Sunday gathering for today. So I'm going to turn it over to her and she can explain our theme and the choice of splendid music and whatever else. And we'll get going. Over to you, Carrie.
Thank you very much, Sandra. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our 150th, cannot believe it, Sunday gathering. The theme for today is life. We could speak for hours on life because you know what? We all currently have one. That's the incredible thing. And we will all continue to have one even after we've left this one. And that's what We Don't Die, the Sunday gathering, is all about. But today, I thought I would bring in something a little bit close to home. Although Phil and I live in England right now, you might not believe it, but I actually come from Scotland, even though my accent is not very strong. And on the 25th of January, we celebrate in Scotland something called Burns Night. And it's Robert Burns, or Rabbie Burns as he's known. And he was born on the 25th of January, 1759. And he wrote an amazing amount of poems, some of which you might already know. Now in school, we had to learn Rabbie Burns poems and recite them in primary school and in high school. So it's very close to my heart and brings back some lovely memories. All of our singers on our bands today are originally from Scotland. And our healing song is by one of my favourite artists. And you'll see that as Sandra takes us into the healing moment. But I'd like to take you into the opening prayer before we head into the rest of today's Sunday gathering. So please join me as we close our eyes and enter into that mode of prayer. Divine, creative force of life, that life that we have, our very breath, our very being, creation that has allowed us to live physically on this land and then to exist in an invisible world, to support, to guide, to love, and to honour all that has walked this land. Life has been on our planet in many shapes and many forms for such a long time that we may as individuals feel like a speck of dust or a speck of sand on the beach. And yet our life is so important. Today we celebrate life. We honour that life of those that have gone before us and those that will come after us, and of course our own life and those around about us. So let's celebrate life. Let's honour that life with love, joy, music, and evidential mediumship and motivating words. Amen.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Carrie has asked me to do the reading today, and it's always an opportunity to exercise a little creativity. One of my most favorite quotes is, "Your life is but a thread in the fabric of your soul." So let me read that one more time. Your life is but a thread in the fabric of your soul. So as we're talking about life today, it's everlasting, I thought I'd talk a little bit about life in the afterlife. Now, I did not create this. This is a reading from the words of Silver Birch, who spoke through the trance mediumship of a fellow named Maurice Barbanel. One day after death, you will be the same individual as you were one day before it, except that you will have discarded your physical body. You will express yourself through your etheric body, which is a replica of the physical one. It does not, however, reproduce any of its imperfections. All diseases and infirmities will be left behind. The deaf will hear, the dumb will speak, the blind will see, the cripple will be crippled no longer. You must try and understand that life in the spirit world is not dreamy or nebulous. It is full of activity. It is just as real as the life that each one of us lives here. We are accustomed to think of the material world as being real and solid, although actually this is not so, as the science of physics proves. The things of the mind or the spirit seem to us shadowy and vague, but to those who live on the other side, the mental is the real and the physical is the shadow. This doubtless will be hard for you to grasp, but you will find a perfect analogy if you think of your dreams. When you dream, all the things that you encounter are real at the time of their happening. They only become dreams when you wake up. If you never woke up and dreaming was the perpetual state of your existence, then that state would become your reality. The spirit world is round and about us. Some people see it and hear it because they can tune into its vibrations. It is not situated in some far-off continent. It is part of the universe, blending and intermingling with the physical world. You must dismiss from your mind the old-fashioned theological idea that after death, there is an undisturbed eternal sleep. There may be at first a short time of rest to enable the newly arrived spirit to adjust himself to his new life. This may take a little time. Then he meets those who have preceded him. Families are reunited. Old associations are reestablished. Friendships are renewed. I know the question you will ask is, how will I be able to recognize those who have gone before? This is not really a difficulty. They will know you, having watched over you and kept in constant touch with you. Then, because the spirit world is a place where thought is the reality, they will be able to show themselves to you as you knew them. Sometimes people are puzzled because they learn there are houses on the other side. You must remember, though, these are not houses made of bricks and mortar, but constructed out of thought. This also applies to the clothing that is worn. What about food, you may ask? Do they eat? As long as there is a desire for food, this mental desire is mentally satisfied. As long as the individual craves for food and drink, he can obtain the illusion of what he requires, and it satisfies him. In the spirit world, there are no language difficulties. All people of all nations speak the same language, thought. There are no words to be mouthed, for ideas are conveyed telepathically from one person to another. What do? Each person seeks to express his natural talent. In this earthly life of ours, there are thousands of singers who have never sung, actors who have never acted, painters who have never painted, poets who have never written a line of poetry, musicians who have never composed a note of music. All these talents have never had an opportunity of being expressed because through economic circumstances, usually, the owners had to follow some other occupation to secure their bread and butter. On the other side, they can express their talents. Spirit life is not a state of vagueness or eternal sleep, but one of activity and labor. Idleness and unemployment do not exist there. There's plenty for all to do, although I know it is difficult for us who are immersed in material affairs to appreciate the activities of the spiritual world. Apart from labor, there is an opportunity for recreation and enjoyment. There are means of education and instruction in all branches of life, in just that particular form of knowledge which the spirit desires. Of course, many of them are engaged on tasks which mean cooperation with people in this world. Some of them are hard at work helping to make communication between the two worlds easier. Others attracted by people in our world who are following similar lines of research, industry, art, or reform naturally return to inspire those efforts, although often people in this world are unconscious of spirit interest. That's just a bit from a much longer reading, but I thought you would enjoy that. Oh, so have faith, my dear friends, here on our 150th Sunday gathering. The spirit world is very, very real, and we are part of it just as much as it is a part of us. So as we go into our healing, Carrie has mentioned she's picked a very lovely song. Sit back, close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing that. And with this world of spirit around us, we are divine souls with quite a divine power. If we could just take a look with our mind's eye at the world, and instead of seeing people in situations unhealthy, see everybody happy, whole, well, prosperous, love, joy, smiles. So with that, let me play our song for healing.
If you're anything like Phil and I, that song will have just taken you to some place where you feel free, where life really happens. It's by an artist that I've known almost all of my adult life, a lady called Eddie Reader, and she used to be in a group called Fairground Attraction, going way back into the late 80s and early 90s. The songs that we hear remind us of our lives, don't they? You can hear a song and it transports you to childhood, or you can hear a song and it will take you to a memory with somebody, or you can hear a song and it can remind you of an experience you had on your own. Songs and music, for me, are part of life. I think last week Sandra said, let's share something about yourself that nobody else would know. Well, when I was young, I played 3 instruments and used to sing as well. Phil would probably agree, I can't do any of them now. But I love singing. For me, it's the breath of life. For me, if I'm having a bad day, I put on some music or I sing and it changes. It changes everything about life in that moment. And isn't life just that, moment to moment? We can very easily change a bad moment into a good one. Not quite like a haircut, but when Phil said he cut his hair short, I said, you're only a couple of days away from it being a good haircut. Didn't I say that to you?
You did, unfortunately, yes.
Music can make a bad moment into a good moment if we allow it to happen. Sandra read from Barbanel, Silver Birch there. It is incredible. You can get so much Silver Birch information free on the internet. You can also get it from reliable sources as well, books about Silver Birch, about what he's shared. There is some truths there. And it's a truth that I learned very early in my own spiritual development. I walked into a spiritualist church in Dunfermline where, when I was in my very early 20s, I met a gentleman called Jock MacArthur there, who grunted and said, all right, welcome. And then I went and took my seat. I thought, oh my goodness, for the life of me, what am I doing here? I didn't know that that was the beginning of something that would forever change my life, because my life apart from my husband and my children is the spirit world and everything linked to the spirit world. I live my life walking in the truths of the spirit life, and I will end my life knowing the truths of the spirit life, spirit world. I'm not eager to get to the spirit world, don't get me wrong, but I know where I'm going, and Phil knows where I'm going. Should I go to that place first, He knows where I am. Now, that doesn't take away grief, don't get me wrong. Knowing where somebody is after physical death does not touch the pain of grief. People will say to Phil and I, well, you're okay, you're not touched by grief because you know where your person is. They're in the spirit world. In actual fact, it makes no difference. Every human being has to pay the price for loving. But what a gift love is. What a gift to have people in your life that make that difference. If they go to the spirit world before you, you're left with that pain. You're left with that hole in your heart. That is grief. It changes. It adapts over time. It changes shape. It changes its relationship to us. We have good days and we have bad days. You will know this, that there are good days and bad days. Grief never disappears. It's never going to go into oblivion, because as long as you and I remember our grief, we remember our love of that person. That's what life is about. Remembering life, remembering the times. There was a beautiful woman called Estelle Roberts, now resides in the spirit world. You can read about her. She was a phenomenal medium. She was a phenomenal mental medium. She was a phenomenal trance medium, and she was a phenomenal physical medium as well. She filled the Albert Hall, thousands of people, taking a penny a person, which was then donated on. And she spoke of the truths of the spirit world. Now, in those days, we're going back a lot of years. There were people on the door watching for police. There were investigators in the Albert Hall trying to be skeptical and prove Estelle Roberts incorrectly and fraudulently demonstrating her mediumship. And yet she stood up and stood tall for what she believed in. That's what life is about. Standing up for what you believe in. Standing true for what you believe in. Yours might not be life after death in the spirit world. Your truth might well be something else, but that's life. The life is about knowing what we believe, but being willing to change it. I've met so many people over the years that say, I don't know what to believe. I don't know what my truth is. And my answer is, it doesn't matter what your truth is, as long as you're always on your way to finding it. You're not blindly believing what everybody else tells you. Have your truth, and if somebody tells you their truth and it doesn't feel right, don't take it because you're scared of not having your truth. Listen to it, take it in, and if it doesn't feel right, put it aside, and it might feel right one day. Always be on the path to your truth. That's what I believe life is about. For me, it's mediumship, because mediumship for me speaks a truth about life after death. Mediumship for me speaks a truth about the healing that can happen. It does not take away grief. No reading can. If you think that a reading with a medium like Phil or myself or another will take away your grief, you're sorely mistaken. It can reassure you that your loved one is okay, but it can't take away that pain. So that pain can be worked at and treasured as a part of love by remembering the happy times, by remembering the music, by remembering the memories, and by walking that path of not denying that that person existed, but by knowing that person existed, and that by knowing they're in the spirit world. Not taking comfort from that, but taking a reassurance that you will one day see your loved one again. Thank you.
I don't want to speak because those words were quite profound in so many different ways. It is a real honour, as always, to speak on the Sunday gathering or be part of the Sunday gathering, but to have a theme as life and listen to the words of the healing song, listen to Sandra's reading, and listen to somebody do a inspirational address such as Kerry, it creates thoughts, it creates questions, it makes you think. That's what an address, a reading, and a healing should do. Get us to really question who we are and what we think. But when Kerry said that her theme was going to be life, I thought, oh, this one's going to be easy. This one's going to be just a normal talk. Well, actually, it's confused me all week because there's so many different thoughts and perceptions we can have about life itself. To some people, it will be about the human race. It will be about the animal kingdom, or even the plant kingdom as well, because they reproduce. They have intellectual, or there's an intelligence, a functional activity that takes place. So it shows that it's living. It has growth, but it also continually changes preceding death. That will be just to some people. But to some people, it will be about direction, their why, their intention, their goals in life. The why is what makes us carry on going. When we fall or trip and something hurts, or there's a stumbling block, or there's something different in life, that's what makes us carry on. So it's important that we know that. And it's purposeful to have a direction, to have a goal, because it keeps us driving forward. So those are just some perceptions of what life could be. But actually, when we go to the English dictionary or we go to Google, it says that it's an enigma. Nobody can really answer what life is because it has a different perception to all of us. So as we sit and as we think and as we question, as Kerry's got us to do, and talked about those pioneers as Sandra did, we've got to think about self. What does life mean to us? Is it those things I talked about, facts and data of what life actually is and how science would deem it? Or would it be the why, your purpose, intention, or direction? As I said, those are the things that will help you get to the end of the day. For some people, it might be completely different. It might be about creating memories in the here and now, memories that carry emotion, that make us feel fulfilled, that keep us going, that leave a legacy behind in other people. There's a saying that says, it's not what you do for people, it's how you make them feel. Those feelings are ingrained. They're etched into your memory. They're etched into your heart. And it's on those dark moments, those moments that life puts in front of us, that keep us going, that lift us up, that create the light in the darkness. So life, ladies and gentlemen, is just what you make it, what we can all make it. If we think about Monty Python comedies, life is but a dream. Life is inspirational. All those things that can make us smile. So in a way, all the things I've spoken about, those different reasons of what life could be, are true. But when we live in the moment, there's something different that happens. We become actively engaged in a purposeful power. We could call that power life. It gives us meaning, gives us hope, gives us understanding. It creates change within us, change to be better. There's no truer saying than having growing pains. Those are things that cause us upset in life and how we don't want to go through them, but actually how powerful they are in the moment, because they make us change direction. They give us a further insight into what is meant, or what is our meaning, what is our hope, what is our love all about life. The more that we question, the more that we see. So for me, as I said, all of those meanings of life are true, but it's true to our individual purpose, our individual goal. Whether it is standing in front of an audience doing mediumship for some, whether it is about creating memories with your family, whether it is having those wonderful holidays. You see, life is what we make it. And I know that we can relate that to so many things. I relate it to my grandparents and my mother that's still with us today, where she said to me, Philip, when I was about 17 years of age, she said, life is what you make it. If you're willing to do the hard work, you'll reap the rewards of it. And that's the funny thing, isn't it? If we're willing to do the hard work, we'll reap the rewards. Well, as we work, we're all busy. Every day we've got things to do. Life dictates what we should be doing. Because we look at Maslow's hierarchy, we have basic needs. We need to be loved. We need food. We need somewhere to live. We need shelter. All those things. But to do that, we've got to earn money. We've got to, if you think about it, mortgage or rents, somewhere place to live. It's not cheap, is it? So all those basic needs, all those things that we want to do cost money. And we get caught in a life where we're meant to do certain things. We're meant to grow up, some of us. We're meant to actually have a job, provide for the family, do things that are intelligent, have that 2.4 children, maybe a car. All those things cost money. Well, actually, with hindsight, as I look back, I think to myself, did I do it the right way? I did it the conventional way. I did the things, I'm doing the things that are important and what are expected, but yet I do it differently. I have an intelligence now from life experience where I do the things I love. And doing that, that creates what I need for today. If we can change our mindset to what life is really about, not just what we're expected to do or expected to be, but go out, enjoy life, do the things that create memories, that bring us happiness, that create well-being and health within all of us, then what a world it would be. What a life it would be. There's many things out there that cost absolutely nothing. A simple walk within the woods, within nature, a simple walk within fresh air, or a simple walk, as we used to say in Scotland, in the rain. There's nothing wrong with the weather if you wearing the right clothing. These things can be life-changing because you never know as you walk through the woods or out in nature, what is round the corner, what view you might get. Even this evening, looking out of one of our windows, the sky was a delightful red, was a real purple sky. And I just smiled. That cost me nothing, just a simple gaze. Ladies and gentlemen, life is what we can make it. Keep it simple, keep it true, and keep it honest. Then you never know what bright surprises are around the corner. Thank you for listening.
Oh, you guys, ladies and gentlemen, I know we can't give applause like this, but we can do this. You can press your raise hand button if you like. Thank you, Carrie and Phil, for such meaningful words. Beautiful. Yeah, the simple four-letter word of life has so much to it. An unbelievable amount. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move now into our demonstration of mediumship. And if you're here for the first time, we'll give you some instructions. If you've been here 150 times, you'll hear it again. But just pretend it's your first time. Why not? Why not? It's a wonderful opportunity to see the spirit world in action through our lovely mediums of Phil and Carrie, who are both longtime mediums and longtime tutors. You know, they stand for each one of us having our lives fulfilled. They also stand for the people in the spirit world having a voice again. I know each and every Sunday, there are those of us who say, oh, I hope my person comes through today. And I know I've seen it in the chat box as well. I do think the spirit world picks the representatives for all of us. All of our loved ones are gathered here today. Just like there's around 200 of us here live in our Sunday gathering, and you only see Carrie, Phil, and I. That's it. So we just get a handful of members of the spirit world representing everybody, letting us know that we're right here with you. We haven't left. We love you. So as the demonstration happens, if it's not your person coming through, pretend it is, that those words are for you, that they were chosen, just like my reading and the inspiration from Carrie and Phil just for you today. I think there's always gold we can pull forward from any time anybody speaks. Carrie and Phil will each take a turn being our medium. The folks from the spirit world will come knocking on their virtual door and present themselves using all of their faculties. It could be their memories, could be their feelings, could be pictures in their mind, could be sounds, could be tastes, could be smells. They'll do their best in a few brief statements to talk about the person that is with them. We want you to listen in closely, be on the edge of your seat. Do you recognize this person as somebody you know that no longer walks this earth? Could be a loved one, could be a friend, could be somebody a little bit distant. But don't have any fear if your soul resonates that, oh, this is my person. You never have to be on screen. Don't worry about that. We do like to hear your voice. Hopefully that's not a problem, but you don't have to be on screen, which a lot of people fear, because I know you might be in your underwear or have curlers in your hair or multitasking. But if you can understand every bit of information from the initial bits that Carrie and Phil deliver, we want you to press your raise hand button. And this is always an opportunity that we can all press our raise hand button. Find it on your device, see how it works. You might have pressed it earlier, but press it again. You may have pressed it 150 times, press it again. You guys are great. Thanks for playing along with me each week when I ask this. And now it should say lower hand. So press it again, take the hand down. And for those of you who are out for a walk or multitasking, please know you may accidentally press your raise hand button. So if you're put on the spot, just pay attention to what your device says. Keep your hand down. All right, we still have a few people with their hands raised. Jane, Fran, Fusan, you still have your hands raised. You want to take them down? It may take a minute or two to find the recipient from our spirit person. And if it happens to be you, I will press a button on my side that will allow you to press your unmute button. Can't see that right now, but I'll press a button and make that happen. Carrie and Phil do the work on behalf of the spirit world. So all we need from you is a good sound yes or no to the information that they're giving you. Perhaps an I don't know fits as well. We are often very excited and we want to share all about our person, but we want everybody to know that it is the spirit world coming through. And I know those of us who have been on the Sunday gathering previously, we know the joy that comes through with our friends in the spirit world. There isn't much more to say about it, but they are alive, they are real, they are people, they're living their best life, looking good, feeling good, all is well. And what a wonderful opportunity it is for them to come through on Sundays and saying, we're all right here. As we go into our song before our demonstration, it's a song I haven't heard before. A young man named Paulo singing about new shoes, of all things. But it's a peppy song. It's a feel-good song. Take a few minutes and just crowd the space around you with your loved ones. They're real. They truly are. They don't just show up on Sundays. They're with you at your tough times and your times of celebration. And today is a celebration, of course, for number 150. So sit back, relax, tap your toe if you'd like, and we'll hear this great new song to me that Carrie has picked. What a great song. Who knew new shoes could make one feel so good? Hi, Carrie.
Hello, that's another one of my favorite artists, Paolo Nutini. You've never heard of him?
Nope.
No. Well, there you go. Two new artists to you. You are welcome.
Thank you.
It is always a pleasure, and today is no different to any other. I know we have themes, but it is always a pleasure to be able to get to work with the spirit world, and today is no different. So I know as I begin to work with the spirit world here, I know what I have, but I don't have the relationship which he knows will make me extremely curious. But I know I have a gentleman here, and I actually feel like he would have been a cab driver, taxi driver. I actually feel like he would have, whichever country he's in, I feel he would have been an immigrant to that country or of an immigrant family to that country, because I feel there's an accent there that's not of an English speaking country. Would this make sense? I know it's less than I would normally get, but I know that some of this must make sense to somebody in our audience.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Okay. We have Nina with her hand raised. Hello, Nina.
Hello, Sandra.
Hi, Nina.
Hi, Carrie.
Hello. Now, you would understand a gentleman in the spirit world that would have been a cab driver.
Yes,
And would you understand that being within New York?
that's correct.
Okay. I had the yellow cab, I held back on it, but I know that he would have not been of American descent.
That's correct.
I feel like he would have had either European or Middle Eastern background there.
I'm gonna have to say no to both of those.
Okay. Excuse me a second. Then he must have spoken a different language, though. It wouldn't have been English.
That's correct.
Because I do feel there's a sense here, and you don't know it to have come from Middle Eastern Europe or the Middle East.
That's not where he would have come directly from, and I don't know anything more about
Okay.
background to say.
Okay. Hang on one second. I know it's a yellow cab. Sandra, do we have anybody else that understands everything I've just said?
We have Janet with her hand raised. Janet, could you press your unmute button? Hi, Janet.
Hi, Sandra. Hi, yes, my father drove a yellow cab, and his family originated from Russia. He came over as an infant.
Okay. And this would be in New York then?
Yes, Brooklyn. Well, I lived in Brooklyn,
Okay.
but he drove in
Okay.
Manhattan.
And you would know that Eastern, because I do feel it, Eastern, I actually felt like I was going towards the Ukraine kind of Russian border there, that Eastern part of Europe.
Yes, that's where
Nina,
his parents.
Nina, let me work with Janet for a second. You would know this to be a close relative though, Janet.
My father.
Your dad,
Yes.
okay. Because I know with him, he would have had a very distinctive laugh though.
Yes, he had a great laugh.
Because he was giving me nothing other than the cab and this where he came from, but this laugh would have had people rolling about with laughter. And I also know he loved his job.
Well, he had many jobs. He was a man of a different mask of a different faces.
Okay.
He was a furrier by trade.
Don't give me, Janet, just don't give me too much, because I'd love to be able to give you evidence. Then he must have spoken very, very fondly about his time as a cab driver.
Yes, he did.
And he must have had a lot of stories of being that cab driver.
Yes.
And whilst he was a cab driver, Janet, you would know that your dad would have told you about the times where he had fairly famous people in his cab.
Yes. Yes, he did.
Because I know he gives me the sense of, you never guess who I had in my cab today. I know that he must have had actors in his cab as well.
He must have had what in his cab?
Actors and actresses.
Yes, that's the famous people.
Because I feel like he's picking them up or taking them to Times Square and Broadway in that area of New York.
I wouldn't know where he dropped them off, but yes,
Okay.
he drove in Manhattan.
Okay. And I know from your dad that he wasn't one to boast himself, but he would exaggerate slightly about what happened.
Well, that I'm not sure of.
So or if he didn't exaggerate, he would make a big deal out of who he saw and what he did.
No, I think he more or less hushed up. He didn't really trade on names.
Okay, then there must be something your dad said to you about a particular person that you remember very clearly then.
Yes.
Okay, because I know he's making a big deal of this. It feels like I'm making a big deal of this. I need to say as well, Janet, that your dad would have brought recipes from his background. He must have known, I know you said he came as a young person, but there would be recipes he would make.
I'm not sure about that.
Would that be a no then?
Yes, no.
Then you must be making recipes of your heritage then.
Yes, I do.
Because I know and I can smell these spices and what goes into that Eastern European or Russian food. I also know that you must have recently been researching where your family came from.
Yes, I
And when I
have.
say recently, I do feel it's very recently.
Last week.
Okay. I also know, Janet, that as you're researching your family, you have begun to appreciate the trials and tribulations of the background that your dad came from.
Oh, yes.
And I know that what is going on in the world, it's very easy to judge the past by the present, but you've realized that actually there's so much depth and goodness from where your dad came from.
He came from wartime, so it was really hard.
But I know that you have found out such a depth of history about where your dad came from.
Yes.
And I know your dad has this pride of his heritage. I don't feel your dad would have got to go back there though, Janet.
No, he never went back.
Because I know you have thought about going back. I know the world's an upside down place right now, but I know that you would have had thoughts because you know the places you would want to go to.
I'm not sure about that.
Okay, I'll use that as a no, Janet, but I get the sense from your dad that you have this feeling of wanting to find out what the area is like.
Yes, but they kept changing the borders, so I'm not sure exactly where.
And I know this is your dad's wanting to highlight. I know you've given me that, so I can't give you it back, but I do know that this changing in what you're finding is not far from the truth. I know your dad gives me this feeling of it doesn't matter, because in actual fact, when things were changed, you know the area you want to go to and the traditions will be the same.
Yes, I guess so.
And I know your dad's reassurance is about you knowing where you come from and what you're doing, because you've actually got a number of different areas that you're researching, not just your dad's, but different areas as well.
Yes, also in the Middle East.
Okay, because I know he takes me, but I know you give me the Middle East, but I know he takes me to that part of the world. This is why we only say yes and no. I know he takes me to this part because I know what he gave me at the beginning. It's his way of saying, I see what you're doing. I know what you're doing. Your past doesn't make who you are, but he understands you're wanting to know. And I know you're doing this on behalf of others as well, Janet.
Yes. Yes.
Please know your dad's reassurance is about your morals, your ethics, and that you are helping out in the community. Your dad is wanting to say he sees what you are doing within your own community.
Yes.
He also sees what you are doing to bring the family together. So however that makes sense to you, I know this is what your dad wants to share with you. And the only way he could know this was he's very, very close to you.
Yes, he is. And I'm a middle child, always trying to bring the families together.
So I'm going to leave you with your dad's love. Thank you very much for allowing me to do that, Janet.
Thank you so much, Carrie.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Deb.
Now, I do have another gentleman here, and I do want to go to San Francisco because I can see all the terrain and the environment of San Francisco. But I know that somebody would have in our audience would have a picture of their dad standing next to a San Francisco tram on one of the hills, and I know that they would have memories of Dad talking about the trams in San Francisco.
Thank you very much. Tram, trolley, San Francisco treat. Ladies and gentlemen who can understand this information. Might need to think back, think out of the box. Beth has her hand raised. Beth, if you could press your unmute button. Hi, Beth.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hi, Beth.
Thank
You would
you.
understand this to be Dad,
Yes.
and you understand this photograph of your dad standing next to this, I would call it a
Trolley.
tram, but a trolley, a San
Trolley.
Francisco trolley.
Yes.
Then, and your dad would have had very vivid memories of those times and talked to you about them.
I don't remember.
Really? But
Don't know.
your dad would have come from the Pacific side of America, Beth.
Yes.
Okay, because I need to check. It's not just a visit. I
No.
know he derives from there. He lives there. But I know your dad must have been a very, very quiet gentleman.
No, I don't think this is my dad.
Okay, Beth, you're going to let me do my job?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. So you wouldn't understand your dad being a very quiet gentleman.
Mm,
No. Okay.
No.
I'm going to see whether somebody else in our audience can understand that, Sandra, because I can't change too much. I can, if need be, drop the relationship, but I do know this gentleman derives from San Francisco, and somebody here would know of a photograph of him standing next to a San Francisco trolley.
Thank you, Carrie. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it may not be Dad, and Beth, you keep listening in. Is there someone else that can understand this information? Samantha, you've got your hand raised, and Jane has her hand raised, Carrie.
Okay.
Oh, back
And
to
we-
just Samantha. We're
Okay.
bringing her in. Thanks, Jane, for putting your hand down. Samantha, hello.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hi,
ma'am.
Samantha. Yes, you
Excellent.
can.
Wonderful. So there's no photograph, I'll just say that, but I resonate with a quiet dad and a San Francisco connection. But he is not from there, but wanted to be there.
I'm not sure, Samantha. Thanks
Yeah.
for putting up your hand, though. But I definitely know and you've not been to San Francisco, Samantha.
I used to live there.
Oh, and do you have a photograph of you? No, I can't even make that fit, Samantha. I know
Okay.
I have a gentleman. Thank you very much. It's always
Yes, thank you.
helpful when put up their hands.
All right. Thank you, Samantha. Jane,
Thank
you
you.
have your hand raised. Hello,
Yes.
Jane.
Hi, hello.
Hi, Jane. So
Hi.
you understand everything I've said?
Well, quiet dad, not from the Pacific Northwest, but we did a big family trip, and there were tons of photos. I don't remember that one specifically.
Okay, let me work with you for a second, Jane. Then if it isn't the Pacific coast that you all derive from, there must have been a substantial amount of time there. It's not just like a weekend holiday.
Yeah, it was much longer than a weekend.
Okay, because it feels like there are solid memories deriving from the Pacific coast. And you would know your dad having a photograph of him next to one of those San Francisco trolleys.
Possibly. I mean, this was years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. And then there were a lot of photos from that trip.
And you wouldn't have been looking at them recently?
No.
Carrie, Cynthia has her hand raised
I
too,
was
so I
about
don't
to
mean.
say, I'm so sorry, Jane, but it
Okay.
doesn't feel completely right. I know how this gentleman's a little bit reserved, but he's stepping even farther back.
Okay.
Cynthia, you have your hand raised. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Cynthia. You understand everything I've said?
Well, not exactly.
Okay, so let me go through. You understand a gentleman in the spirit world, that you have a photograph of him with the San Francisco trolleys.
No. But a
And-
strong San Francisco connection and photographs of other vehicles and other
Okay.
information that
And
could
would
match.
this be your dad, Cynthia?
It's my dad.
And he would be quietly spoken.
Yeah, I would say.
Okay, and your dad would have had, he would have been quite happy if everybody else is happy to go along with it.
I don't know about that one.
You wouldn't know your dad to want everybody else to be happy and wouldn't have got in the way of that. No, it's not feeling
No.
right. I know what I've got here, and unfortunately, we're going to have to run a little bit longer on this. Cynthia, thank you very much, but not to say none of your dads are here, but I know what I've got here. So I do believe somebody is not putting up their hand.
All right. Thank you very much, Cynthia. We have some hands going up.
Okay.
Sunshine
So
and Sandy both have their
I
hands.
don't want to take away the San Francisco. I do not want to take away there being a photograph or a very vivid memory of a San Francisco trolley. The only thing I'm willing to drop is a relationship. So would any of our people understand that?
We have Sunshine and Sandy with their hands raised. Oh, just Sunshine. Thank you, Sandy, for putting your hand down if it didn't fit. Sunshine, could you unmute? Hello.
Hi, it's actually for Brian. He's
Oh,
here.
hi, Brian.
Hello.
Hi,
Yeah,
Brian.
there's a couple things. I mean, we live in the San Francisco area, and my entire family is born in the San Francisco area, and my dad was a photographer.
Okay, and you would understand your dad to be quite reserved and quiet.
Yes.
Okay, and I've just got such a whirlwind of emotion, so I know I'm in the right place, Brian. I know that your dad would have enjoyed taking photographs in the area that he lived, so there must have been a lot of photographs.
Yes.
I know too that your dad must have had been recognized for the photographs that he did.
Yes.
I know with your dad too that he would have not wanted any acclaim or to be noticed at all for what he did.
Yes.
Because I got the strong sense from your dad that I couldn't be outspoken, I couldn't be over the top, I had to be understated, and yet the quality of his photographs, even to this day, are still talked about.
Correct.
Brian, your dad must have photographs that are either in a newspaper or are still shown.
Yes.
Because I know his word is that his name is remembered, and there are still words about your dad that are spoken.
Yes.
Now, I know you've told me your dad was a photographer, but I also need to say your dad gives me the sense that he would have he would have had photographs of things that weren't always happy and delightful.
Yes.
Because I do know he took photographs of people who were down in their luck. He took photographs. You would have known he took photographs for newspapers and
Yes.
and he would have been the photographer for some horrible disasters too.
Definitely. Yes.
Okay, because I know the photographs he's showing me, that he has such a respect for what he's doing, that he feels similar to Phil and I about life. He respects life, absolutely.
Yes.
And I know some of the photographs you must have been looking through very recently.
Yes.
And as you were looking through them, the photographs are not for you, but I know they remind you about your dad's values and where he came from.
Yes.
And funnily enough, your dad gives me the sense of when photographs are being taken by others, your dad was always in the corner, just off screen. He hated getting his photograph taken.
Yes.
Because I know there's one photo in particular within the family. Before your dad passed, Brian, there would have been a family get together.
Yes.
Because at that family get together, I get the sense that your dad is just on the corner of a photo, not out of sight, but just in the corner. And that's how his personality was.
Yes.
At that family get together as well, I know your dad would have, or you know that your dad passed with an illness.
Yes.
And I know that at that family get together, there must have been an inkling that you and him were aware of.
Somewhat, yes.
Okay, because I know he brings this feeling of, we knew, you and I. You must have sensed something. He's wanting to acknowledge that.
Yes.
He wants to acknowledge, Brian, as well, the truth that you spoke up for your dad. So you must have had to have spoken up on behalf of your dad.
Yes.
And I know your dad wants to acknowledge that. He's a beautiful soul. And from what I can see, a beautiful photographer as well. There must be a montage of his photographs that family members have on a wall.
Somewhat.
Not of him, but of the photos he took.
Some, yes, partially.
Oh, okay, because I know he acknowledges that. I also want to acknowledge that he must have been remembered at his place of work.
Yeah.
You know, there was a memorial or a place that was named after your dad.
Yes.
He's ever so pleased. In the most humble way, he's ever so pleased. I know this is your dad's way of saying, I see what's happening. I see where you are. And I know your dad is wanting to acknowledge that at this very moment, there is a challenge for you, a kind of dilemma he wants to acknowledge for you.
Yeah.
The ethics, the morals, the integrity he took his photos with, he led his life with, he brought you up with, are integral to what he wants to leave you with. But Brian, I also need to acknowledge, just as I said that he brought you up with, you know, your dad wasn't as present with you as he could have been.
I'd say no.
Okay. Then there must be part of your dad's life you're not too sure of or don't have a lot of information about.
I'd say as an adult, he wasn't.
Pieces.
Okay. Brian, you would know where your dad wasn't extremely close to another member of the family.
No.
Really? Okay. Let me work with him for you, Brian, because it's important that I understand this for him. Brian, you would know where you heard of your dad's passing, but you weren't able to get to him in time.
No.
That's not correct. You were with him and he passed.
Yes.
Okay. Then I know he's wanting to acknowledge the person that couldn't get to him.
I'd have to think about that. I don't think so.
Okay. Okay, just give me a moment longer, Brian, to work with your dad, because I know he's trying to get something with me that I'm just not understanding with him. Okay. I know your dad had such an ability to make people, feel part of the family. There was never anybody left out of the family. And I know that he's wanting to, you would know where somebody's come into the family with you since your dad's passing.
Yes.
Okay, because I know I'm just not clear, wasn't clear on what your dad was meaning, but I know he wants to acknowledge the distance and now the closeness of somebody he's welcoming into the family. So whoever that is, they have your dad's approval. Because I know this wouldn't be your partner, Brian.
No.
Okay, because I know there's a photograph of you and this other person taken that your dad wants to acknowledge he has seen.
I think I know what you're talking about, but I'm gonna
Oh.
just say yes and no.
Okay, then have a look for that photograph. You can let me know, because when you do, you'll realize your dad's saying hi to that person. Welcome to the family. I'm going to leave your dad's love with you. I'm going to leave your dad's strength for this dilemma that's happening for you. Please know your dad sends his strength and his ethics, his morals, and his values to you. Thank you for working with me, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you for Sunshine, for bringing Brian on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you, Carrie.
I'm going to pass the hot seat to Phil. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sure you kept it warm for him. Thank you very, very much, Carrie. And ladies and gentlemen, you can see how important it is to get to the right recipient. I think we could feel that from the spirit world as well when we found who it is. Hi, Phil.
Hello, Miss Sandra. No, as Kerry was working, I was just hearing the ding, ding, ding of the trolleys, and I was thinking, oh, that's a film. And I thought, so I knew she was on the right track, sort of thing. But who would have thought? Life of Brian, Monty. Yep, eggs well. There we go. Fantastic. Few little jokes in there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always a pleasure to be here, and always a pleasure to work with the spirit world. And I must say, we never know if the spirit world is going to come forward, and we never know what they're going to bring forward for us here. So my job is to do exactly what Kerry's done, to work in the same fashion as well. So as I become aware of the spirit world, I do feel I've got a gentleman. I do believe it's Dad, and I do believe he was either a police detective as well. And again, I want to be over in the States because I'm mentioning detective, because I know it's not an English word we would use. So I want Dad. I know he was either a police detective or in that police, because I just get the feeling here there was either, how can I put this? Almost what I want to say, there was undercover work he would have done as well.
Thank you very much, Phil. All right, ladies and gentlemen, who understands this information? We have Michelle with her hand raised. Michelle, if you could find that unmute button and press it for us. Assuming you pressed it on purpose, Michelle. Michelle D. No, is it by accident? Could be, Phil. I don't know. She's not pressing her unmute button.
Unless there's a problem on her end, but that's fine. It's absolutely fine.
Okie dokie.
Okay, so we'll see if she comes back. We drop her name out and we'll see if she comes back. Because I do feel, and if I'm wrong, the only thing I can change here is the relationship. So I know I have a gentleman. I know he was a police detective. I feel with him that would have been that undercover work he would have done. But I actually feel there was long periods away from oh, so I'm hitting it, but nothing able to. So it is Michelle. That's fine. So I don't want to go any further until we get her on.
Okay, Michelle, we're going to try one more thing with you. We're going to try to make you a panelist. And where'd you go? Michelle, could you press your raise hand button again? There you go. We're going to try to make you a panelist. And this will turn your camera on, but it might also get your audio on. And you can also give us a thumbs up. Oh, Michelle, I'm trying everything on my side here. Well, Phil, I don't know if you can use, getting the camera. Maybe something's happening. There you go. There's Michelle.
Hello,
right.
Michelle.
We can see her. We can't hear her.
We can see you. So the way I'm going to work with you, if you can give me a thumbs up if you understand everything I've said. Yes, you do. Okay, good. Brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, she's putting a thumbs up. Do you understand where your dad had to work in some tough situations as well due to his job? Yep, good. Put thumbs up. But I also feel your dad could really look after himself as well. He wasn't shy of being in hard situations because he was a bit of a hard character. Yep, good. But I also know, even though he was a hard character and he worked, he would never drop his morals or his ethics. They were really important to him as well. And she's done a thumbs up, ladies and gentlemen. So I know here with your dad, but I also believe as well, he didn't speak much about his job, though. That's correct, okay? Because it feels like I want to keep dignity and I want to keep my part of my working life away from my family life. Yep, because it feels here, oh, I can't repeat that. So you understand where he would have had some strong views on certain types of criminals. Yep, okay, thumbs up as well, because I just feel some words he uses here. Now, I'm not saying he swore a lot, but he had some very strong words and opinions. Yep, because I just feel with him, he's got this presence about him where there's right and there's wrong and there's no in between. And I actually feel there would be memories of you as a young girl where he would have given you either a lecture about this or you saw a lecture, him giving a lecture to somebody. Yep, because again, it's just that sense. But I want to say, Dad away from work was a completely different person. Because I feel there was a loving father side to him. Say no if it's incorrect. Give me a thumbs down if it's incorrect. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, they give me a thumbs down. But I want to say that this separation from his work and home was really important to him. And would I be right in saying your father wanted to provide for the home? Because I know I can't take this loving father feeling, so I've got to look at it in a different way. It's providing. And I feel that your dad, it was one of his important traits to provide for everybody. And I also feel there was a charitable side to him, but even though he wouldn't show it very often. Correct. Thumbs up. Good. Because I just get that sense from him as well. I also feel he wasn't the best with his emotions and sharing them. She's done a thumbs up as well, because it feels here, Michelle, that Dad wants to say that he does love you. And I know it's one of his biggest regrets here, not bringing this across and saying it as much. And I know just recently you've been thinking about him quite a bit, because he has been around you and he knows where you've thought about those days and you've looked on the better days, because there must be memories of family celebrations where we're outside in the garden at times. Yep, good. Because again, he brings me back these memories where, and would I be right in saying that your dad liked to barbecue as well? Good. And he would barbecue and he would have a little beer as well. Yep, because I keep on seeing with the bottle and with a spatula in the other hand, so I know this is who he is. But I feel your dad was very comfortable at cooking, or the barbecue especially, wanting to be almost that center of attention, if that makes sense. But when I say center of attention, I'm not talking about being loud or being full of jokes. I just want to say that was just his presence being center of attention. And I want to say with your dad, he's not somebody I would argue with, because he's quite a big built man. Yep, because it feels like a little clip round. See, in the UK, the policeman used to give us a clip round the ear, and I still remember that, ladies and gentlemen. I wasn't always perfect. And I know here, no, I was just cheeky once or twice. And I know the policeman here will give you a bit of a clip. I'm not saying Dad would do that, but I know that Dad had that presence. You didn't want that to happen, correct, as well. Because I know your dad had a lovely way that his look would tell you exactly the mood he was in and how you were meant to speak back to him as well. Because as he looks at me, he puts the fear of God into me. It's like, yep, I'm not doing anything wrong, but that's exactly how it is. He's got a look, and I don't mean this personally, he's got a look that would kill. It's like he's got that glare about him. And if I didn't know any better, he would have liked the old Clint Eastwood films as well. Yep, good, because he feels like he's got that dirty Harry look. It's like, okay, you wouldn't mess. So I know he's got that, okay. But I also know here, okay, it's different. You would understand, or with a connection to your father, I feel he was a friend of his that was called Clint. Now you're having to think, aren't you? You're saying no to me. Hold that in your mind, because I know it's very strong here. Would I be right in saying that your dad worked in cities? And would I also be right in saying he investigated murders by himself? He was known for going out of his way to investigate. You're not sure how to, once, okay? So you say that, okay, you understand? Okay. So I'm getting sign language, I don't know now. Okay, so you don't know about that. But I know here, I thought you were doing all this. And I was thinking, what does that mean? It's not a yes or a no, but that's fine. But I know it's just his mindset, because I know there's a real pride about his job. And I want to say he was honoured for the work he did. Yep. And I want to say he's still remembered today and talked about as well. And I want to say you must have a photograph of him wearing a policeman's hat and everything. Okay. And forgive me, ladies and gentlemen, it's one of them with like, it's almost like a 50p piece. It's a do you understand? It's like I've got points you don't understand, but I know he's got that look. Bear with me. Then I must. Oh, bear with me. I'm going to slow down just a second here. Then he must have one time worked on the streets as a policeman. Yes, that's fine. Ladies and gentlemen, they're showing me things that I know of films of certain programs. And all of a sudden I thought, oh, I know how to work this. So I know here he's just